This is the best way to use up all those tortillas that are crunched at the bottom of the bag and you really can't do anything with them. I like to just save mine in a bowl and then make this soup. Hey y'all, it's Erica. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. Now that it's soup season, I am pulling out all the recipes for the soups, and today I'm going to show you how to make my chicken tortilla soup. I absolutely love this soup. I make mine a little bit spicy and put lots of cheese on top of it at the end. If you want to get the full recipe though, there'll be a link down in the description box, but you can also just go to my website, mealplanwithme.com, look at the recipe section, and it'll be there for you with all the ingredients and the measurements and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to run you through the ingredients now, and then we're going to go to the method, and then I'm going to show you how I top mine as well as some other options for you to top yours. If you like videos like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as a thumbs up for soup season, and let's jump into the ingredients. All right, so we're gonna start by chopping up some veggies for our soup. This soup has so many veggies in it. I love it because of that. Whenever I make soups, I always make sure I just add in and throw as many vegetables in as possible. So this one is no different. Here I have 2 bell peppers, 1 green, 1 red. I'm just gonna take the seeds out of them, wash them, and then give them a rough chop. I like to keep my bell peppers like pretty large so that when they cook down, they're soft, but you can still tell that you have a bunch of veggies in the soup. If you wanted to, you could use any other color of bell pepper that you wanted to. You could use yellow, orange, you could use 2 red, 2 green, whatever you have on hand. I prefer to keep it with the red and green scheme like this. And so then I'm just gonna go ahead and chop up this red one the same way that I did the green one and get them ready to saute. All right, next up is the onions. So I have a large and a medium here, and I wanted to show you guys the difference in the size because this recipe is gonna call for a medium, so I'm not gonna use that large one. But I just wanted to show you that a lot of times recipes will say, oh, a cup of onion or a whole large onion, and I'm always confused by that. So I wanted to show you the size compared to my hand and compared to the other one of exactly what I was using so that when you do this recipe, you can kind of visualize it yourself when you're shopping for the ingredients. I'm just gonna go ahead and dice this up and then throw that in with the rest of my veggies. Okay, now for the mushroom time. So this recipe originally when I was a child called for a can of cream of mushroom soup. I prefer not to use that. I like to use fresh mushrooms and then add some heavy cream in at the end. If you have the can in your pantry and you want to just go for it, you do it. Just grab a can of cream of mushroom soup and you'll be good. If you want to leave out the mushrooms, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you, however you want to customize this. The mushrooms here are really kind of an optional item here. You could also use a can of cream of chicken soup if you wanted to add that creaminess. If you don't have any heavy cream, you could also just use some milk if you have that in your fridge. It's really customizable to whatever you have available. Don't fret if you don't have exactly what I'm saying here. I am taking off the stems here though. I feel like sometimes those harbor a lot more dirt than the caps of the mushrooms do, and I find it really difficult to clean it. So I'm starting off with 6 ounces of mushroom, but then after you take the stems out, it's really more like just 4 ounces of mushroom. And I'm just slicing those up and getting them ready to go. I put the veggies aside while I show you guys how I do the chicken. So you need about 4 cups of chicken. This could be either from a rotisserie chicken, or you could cook some chicken breasts and shred those up. Here I just have a bowl of leftover chicken from a chicken that I had roasted a few days ago. I actually have a video on exactly how I do my roasted chicken, so I will link that here for you guys.
And when I do my roasted chicken, I use up everything. So we picked the chicken, we saved the rest of this, and now I'm even pulling the chicken off this drumstick here. And that drumstick's gonna go into a bag to make my homemade bone broth. And I also have another video on that, so I will link that here for you if you wanna see kind of exactly how I use all of the chicken and all of the pieces there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish picking this chicken, and then I'm going to cut it all up roughly and then put it to the side so it's ready to go. Now that we have all of our ingredients chopped up and ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and drop quite a bit of ghee into this soup pot here, which is well loved. You guys can see by the scratches. Don't worry about the actual amounts here. I will link the recipe in the description box below where you guys can go and see the exact amounts so that you can have them for when you want to remake this at home. So we're gonna go ahead and melt this ghee down. If you don't have ghee, you could surely use avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, or any vegetable oil that you have. I just prefer ghee because I love the flavor of it. If you don't know what ghee is, it is actually just butter that has the milk fat removed from it. So it is a dairy-free alternative to butter. Now I'm gonna add those veggies, the green bell pepper, red bell pepper, and the onions, and I'm gonna let them saute for quite a while until they get pretty soft. It's gonna be about 10 minutes of cooking and stirring and letting them cook down. You want to do these first since they are the more hearty vegetables, and then add your mushrooms in. If you add your mushrooms in first, they're gonna absorb a lot of the liquid that the onions and bell peppers and like put off, and when they do that, the mushrooms can get kind of rubbery and spongy, so you don't want to do that. You want to add these in later, that way they can just slightly cook and then they can accept the liquids that we're going to give them when we actually add the broth in. So we want to go ahead and make sure that those mushrooms are added in after the bell peppers and onions. All right, now that we have the mushrooms cooked down a little bit, we're going to go ahead and add in all of our seasonings. I like to add the seasonings in first and stir them up so that they can, what we call, bloom. Basically, you're wanting to just heat the seasonings up to really reactivate them. You know, they've been sitting in your pantry and they're dried already. They're not fresh ingredients. So we want to kind of bring it back to life with some heat and some of that ghee that's in there and really let them give us their full flavor profile. Next up, I'm adding 2 cans of Rotel. This is the original. You could also get the mild or you could get the hot, depending on how your family likes their soups. We kind of opt for an in the middle kind of avenue. That way everybody can have it and nobody is left out. I'm also gonna make sure that I rinse out the bottom of those cans to make sure that I get all of the tomatoes that are left in the bottom and all the extra juices. We want all the flavor of this. I'm gonna mix this up and then I'm gonna start adding my cooking liquid. You can see that I dropped in a little bit of bone broth from my freezer. I went ahead and put this in first because it was still partially frozen. Wanted to make sure that got melted down. For the cooking liquid here, you can do all broth from your freezer, all broth from your pantry. You can use a combination of water and better than bouillon. Make sure that you just follow the package for exactly how many tablespoons or teaspoons that you need for how many cups of water you're using. Or you could do a combination like I did by using some of your broth and then some bouillon, whatever you want to do. I prefer to use the Better Than Bouillon brand because it does not have MSG in it like some of the other more shelf-stable ones do. That is the downside of it though. You have to keep that little container in your fridge and it takes up that space there. But for me, it's worth it. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a quick stir because I know that a lot of that Better Than Bouillon takes a while to melt down. And then again, I always taste it. So even though I've made this soup a gazillion times, I know that obviously the broth that I make is different every time. And I want to keep tasting it to make sure that the flavors are there and I don't need to add anything extra. Okay, so we put the lid on and brought it to a boil just to get it heated up. After adding all that water and the frozen bone broth, we wanted to make sure that it got back up to temperature. We're not trying to cook anything here. Everything is already cooked. We're just heating it. So now I'm going to add the chicken in, and again, everything is already cooked, so we're just heating things up. This soup comes together so quickly. Once you get those vegetables cooked down, it just flies by. It is such an easy weeknight dinner. The last and final touch is going to happen once the heat kind of turns off here. We're going to go ahead and add in this heavy cream and let it kind of get mixed in. Again, if you don't want to use cream, you could use milk, or you could leave it out completely if you wanted to do it dairy-free. Now that I have the soup ready to go on the stove, I'm going to go ahead and give my countertop a quick wipe down. I went ahead and mixed up some of my Force of Nature cleaner. It is just salt, vinegar, water, and then you electrolyze it in this cute little system on your countertop, so you don't have to keep a large bulky amount of products in your kitchen all the time. I've been using this since March of 2020 when we all couldn't go outside, but I wanted to make sure that I had a cleaner that I could make in my house that was just as effective as a Lysol or something that can be a little bit more toxic. If you're interested in Force of Nature, there's a link in my description below where you guys can get $15 off a starter kit as well as free shipping. And this is how I love to clean my house all the time, just as a multi-surface cleaner. Now I'm gonna make my bowl with the tortillas first. That's how I do it. And then I add the soup on top. You can top this with either avocado, you can use sour cream, you can use cheese, you can use cilantro, you can use whatever you want, but the way that I choose to do it is very simple. I put the tortillas first, I put the soup on top so they start to melt the tortillas, get them all soft. Then I add the cheese, and then I put a big dollop of sour cream. If you guys have been around for any length of time, you know that sour cream is my favorite condiment. I cannot go without it.
There you have it, chicken tortilla soup. This is one of my go-to soups for soup season. Once you add the tortillas in there, it gets incredibly filling, and with the cheese, it's super gooey and delicious. I love to make this soup. My family loves to eat it. I hope you guys will try out this recipe. Let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up for soup season and comment down below and tell me if you tried it out. I'd love to hear. Not a first date meal by any means.